Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Juggling Balls podcast. I'm your host, Stu, and I've got the glamorous one with me, Millie.
Hi guys.
So, this week's podcast is going to be discussing the Northwest Derby, and we're going to also be discussing the potential of City being Jaws-like in their efforts to capture the Premier League title and appear out of nowhere. And then we're also going to talk about how Steve Bruce is walking a fine line and may not be lasting for very much longer. If you do enjoy the podcast, please give us a subscribe and leave a rating or a comment or let us know what you think in the comments. And with that being said, we'll get started. So, it's just a small game. Importance. No, nothing great happening, I don't think. I think it's all boring Sky Sports football, really. Nothing much going on, is there?
Yeah, I don't know which games are where, but like the one I may look forward to is Leeds Brighton. That's one we're talking about, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. No, in all seriousness, we've got the Liverpool Manchester United game on at, I believe it's 4:30 kickoff.
It is 1:30 on Sunday. Luckily, we could watch Liverpool Man United and then not clash with any NFL playoffs this weekend.
Woohoo! And also we've got the next Sunday on BBC. We've got the FA Cup game between Man United and Liverpool. So we have back-to-back weeks of the same game. Could be interesting.
I think those two games are going to be vastly different.
Yes, me too. But enough of that. So, in terms of this game then, Millie, are you looking forward to it as a Liverpool fan?
No, I never look forward to these games. I wouldn't say despise, but I never enjoy these games.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually, I was trying to think of the last time Liverpool United were fighting for the title in the same season this part way through. And I keep on going back to it because it was a glorious day, but the game where it finished Man United 1, Liverpool 4.
I don't remember it all that well. I don't.
Vidic got himself sent off trying to tackle Torres. Desena came off the bench to score in the 90th minute. It was a good day, but I don't remember like going into that game looking forward to it either. So it's just my main issue with this game is this is prime Ollie territory.
What, prime PE teacher territory, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Ollie is he has a very set way of dealing with these games. And I don't trust Liverpool at the moment to come up with any particular way of dealing with it.
Well, for me, it has been a torturous few years in regards to this fixture. I remember being a younger lad back in the day and looking forward to them because they were always epic and tight games, and it was always an overjoying feeling of when you won them. But the past few seasons, I've never really felt like we even had a chance of winning the games. This one feels more like if there's a time where I feel more confident in us getting a result, not necessarily a win, but a result. At Anfield, it's probably this season, and I probably haven't felt that way probably since before Mourinho. I think I probably had a bit more confidence when Van Gaal was in his first season and we were beating the bigger teams. So it has been a little while, but I do feel like not tomorrow. I wish it was tomorrow. It'd be something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to Sunday for the sheer fact of I think it's good. A, it's going to be a good game, and B, it's going to be interesting to see how we are going to play it with the way Liverpool's defence is at the minute.
You think this is going to be a good game? Because I don't. I think this is going to be absolutely terrible.
Well, I have a feeling there's going to be an early goal, and that'll basically rip the script apart. And because if say for example Liverpool get an early goal, United can't do what they usually do, which is sit so far back that they've pulled the elastic band so far back that when eventually they do get the ball, they can just go for it. They're gonna have to go more on the front foot, and I generally think that there is going to be an early goal in this game, which is going to set it up to be a more interesting game than it would be. Like it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be the equivalent of the Manchester derby. I think this is going to be one of the better games of the season.
I think this is going to be like the.
Now, if Liverpool do go 2-0 up early on, it's not going to be an enjoyable game, and I take everything back that I've just said. But, you know.
I mean, the last time Liverpool's attack showed any sort of life against people over the age of 18 was against Palace, which I'm not entirely sure counts. And that was before Christmas. There's been many a game since then. I think this is going to be like the City Liverpool game, which was a bit weird to begin with, and it was surprisingly open for the first 30 or so minutes, and then everybody was knackered, and then it got played at 60% speed as what it normally does, and everybody's knackered. Everybody's been playing every 3 days at the minute. An early goal I don't think will change anything, because this is the sort of game where either it happens all in the first 30 minutes or the last 30 minutes. So I'm not entirely sure how it's going to play out. I think it entirely depends on how many defenders are still breathing for Liverpool at this point.
I mean, to be honest, I'm also looking forward to the fact that if we do end up getting a win against Liverpool, I am looking forward to the warmth that's going to be provided from all of social media of, oh, United top of the league, they've got 6 points, and it's just gonna make my day. To be honest, it'll make my year. We could basically fall off the cliff in terms of a title challenge, and I would be more than happy with that after beating Liverpool and all the fans getting very, very nervous at the fact that we're somehow top of the league still. Because whenever I've seen an article or something put up on Facebook or Twitter or even BBC Sport, it's just been filled with what can best be described as every single major team's football fan launching onto it, going, "Oh, United are should be nowhere near the top of the table. This, that, and the other," and it's just been hilarious to see how seriously they've now taken us being up there. Oh, it's just been a joy.
I mean, like in this season, it is very plausible that United win this, and it's very plausible United win the league even if they don't even win on Sunday. So, like, I think pretty much you have to have anybody who's up there at the minute. I mean, bear in mind we're not even halfway through the season yet.
Yeah, that was the point. That was the point I made because I was talking about it with some guys from work, and I just made the point of, like, we're not even halfway through. Like, we're not even through the January transfer window yet, and people are already saying, "Oh, it's ridiculous, this, that, and the other." It's like, I know, but there've been teams who have been top of the table at the halfway point before and who have fallen away. And I feel like, and I said it in the last podcast, like, I feel like we're going to be that sort of team, and that's absolutely fine, because at least, like, that shows progression, that we've been in the conversation and that we're going to be closer. Obviously, the time will tell, obviously, next season, when teams, you would imagine, will be probably back to, things should be more back to normal in terms of scheduling, and teams are able to probably rely on players a bit more, and there's going to be less injuries for people to have to deal with, and there's obviously all the COVID postponements and shuffling around and all that stuff that's coming with this season. But, like, at the end of the day, if you told a Man United fan at the start of the season, this is where you're going to be by just after Christmas or just into the new year, I think they would have been like, "Yeah, you're taking the mick." I know I certainly would have, but, like, it's just making me laugh how much the opposite fans are just unable to somehow handle the fact that neither Liverpool or City are top of the table, and the fact that it's United of all people.
I mean, like, given the fact before we started the season, we both did predictions pre-season, and we didn't have United in the title picture.
No.
So I can understand why people are still a bit wary about United being title challengers less than halfway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a sort of year where you kind of have to say everybody's a contender, rather like in a season where nobody is brilliant. It doesn't take a lot for a good or a very good side to win it. And whether United fall into the good or the very good bracket is up for debate. But
time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. And I go back to the point of Ollie. It seems much more comfortable in these sorts of games than he does trying to beat the bottom of the table. And it reminds me a lot of a couple of years when Rafa was in charge of Liverpool. I would never go in enjoying it, but I wouldn't go in I wouldn't go in like overly worried that something bad was going to happen. I just don't like. I'm always a bit. I don't want to say concerned, but I'm always not looking forward to it. But as soon as the game starts, I'm like, oh, okay, no, I see what's going on here. Against the bigger sides, but against the smaller teams, when they are sitting back and there is no space, it's just like, can we actually do something here?
Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he sets up. I think he's probably going to set up the usual way, but I think, again, like I said before, if the goal goes in, like you say, it could be either the first half hour or the last half hour. It'll totally change how the game looks for the rest of the game, especially if it's earlier on. So in terms of the match, then, do you have a prediction in terms of this one? Do you think it's going to go one way or the other, or are you middle of the fence?
As a rule, I don't predict 0-0s. So I'll go 1-1, but like I am not like Liverpool in the last few games. I admittedly didn't watch them beat a load of school children in the FA Cup, but in the last few of these games, they have looked absolutely dead on their feet after 65 minutes. And so whatever the score is at that point, I'm going to say that's probably what's going to be. I think this is going to be very tight. United are going to really leave no space. I wouldn't be surprised if United play 3 at the back like they did when they went to Paris. So I will go for a very cagey 1-1.
I'm going 2-1 United. I'm going to be brave.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing that for Liverpool is there's a very decent chance that the centre back pairing for Liverpool on Sunday will be Henderson and Fabinho, which, if you had told Liverpool fans that was going to be the centre back pairing in the middle of January, they would have had questions.
Probably had some palpitations at the same time.
Yeah. So I just like.
Yeah.
It's not like they are. It's not like they're bad players. I mean, admittedly, I don't like Henderson as a centre half, but.
So with that being said, then, just while we're talking about centre backs, can I just make a quick round of applause for the resurgence of the myth, the legend that is Eric Bailly? I always knew he was a good defender. He just had this horrible period of about 18 months to 24 months where he just didn't have a Scooby-Doo of what defending or being on a football pitch you were supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, this past couple of months, he's almost done a turnaround on biblical proportions of Fred levels, where he's suddenly playing like the defender I saw at the start when he was playing under Mourinho. Like I love it. The fact that he's back and that he's playing well and he's touch wood, staying relatively fit. Saying that though, he'll probably end up injuring himself by prodding himself in the eye or something on Sunday. But like, no, all credit to the guy for sticking at it and seemingly turning things around. And it looks like he's keeping Lindelof out of the team at the minute. That being said, I think if Ollie does go free at the back, I wonder if he does play Bailly, because sometimes Bailly can be a bit susceptible with a three man defense. But yeah,
it was just an idea I floated at just to deal with Liverpool's front three. I'm not entirely sure they will, but you could have you could have an extra. Because I mean, the problem that Liverpool have had this year is because all the defenders have been dead.
Mm-hmm.
Trent especially, Robertson a little bit, haven't been getting forward as much. So there isn't the threat of the fullbacks bombing on that there was last year. So whether you need three defenders and then two wing backs to deal with the front three, because the front three basically are having to do all the creating and all the creative work themselves, which is why Liverpool's attack slowed down, because it's not a front five anymore; it's a front three.
Yeah.
So it was just it's an idea. I'm not
he did it last year when we drew against you at Old Trafford. That's how he played it. Because I remember we had somebody was out up front and he played. I think he played Dan James and Rashford. I think was the front two. I don't think he'll do that. I don't know if it would be that again.
I mean, like he could do Martial and.
I think Martial might be injured because Martial pulled up. I don't know if he's said anything about him being fit. Yeah,
okay.
But he did pull up at the end of the Burnley game and came off. So I don't know if he'll be available. But I mean, I'll take Cavani and Rashford as a front two any day with the way Cavani's been playing. But yeah, it should be an interesting watch. We'll move on from that one and move on to City.
Do we have to?
No, I don't particularly. I mean, it doesn't have to be a long study on City. I mean, I watched the Brighton game through the week for my sins, and it was a typical performance of struggling to break a team down, but then one bit of individual brilliance separated it. And of course, this time it came from Phil Foden. And the stat that I couldn't quite believe was that he's their top goal scorer this season, which just made me laugh and says it all really about how City have been playing this season. But they are doing that thing that you said when we did the title race podcast a couple of weeks back of they are just quietly going about their business and keeping quiet and just getting their wins 1-2-0 and slowly but surely climbing up that table. And just before you know it, it's the middle of March, the Manchester Derby round 2, and they thrash us 5-0 and make themselves top of the table.
I mean,
we go again.
I mean, City won't beat you 5-0. That's not what they're doing this year. What they're doing is essentially suffocating the life out of any attack. Like when we were discussing City at the start of the season, like that game against Leicester and the Leeds game, and for like a little part of like the early part of that Liverpool game. Mm-hmm. It was so chaotic because there was just runners at the defence all the time. Mm-hmm. So Pep has worked it out, has a very structured game plan now, which is basically we'll keep the ball and we will stop you from attacking at all. Mm-hmm. And we don't need to score 3 or 4 or 5 because you're getting 1 or 2 shots in the whole 90 minutes. We only need to score once. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're doing. And I think it's saying a lot that the system they've got at the minute, Gabriel Jesus, because Aguero's still injured, but Jesus isn't getting any shots.
Yeah.
Because that isn't what they're trying to do anymore. All they're trying to do is just patiently wait for an opening or have a moment of brilliance, because they know that's all they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of the City game on Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember which day it was, but
Wednesday it was, yeah.
Wednesday. Jesus was on the bench and came on and then played left midfielder, I think.
Yeah.
So that tells you always how Pep's going about this for the rest of the season, I think. But I mean, they are good enough. The players are good enough to work that system. I mean, you saw what they did to Chelsea. I know Chelsea weren't in the best of form anyway, but like the fact that it was still a big game. Players' levels can often go up in big games, as you've seen when they've not been at it for a while, and they still just totally took them apart. And they did it against us in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. So, and that was a big game. And it's not like we played massively. We didn't play that badly. I think it was just 2 moments, and they took them, and they won the game 2-0. We barely had any decent chances, and game's over. So yeah, I think that exactly how you've analysed it there and summarised that is exactly how I've seen it as well, especially after seeing the Chelsea and United game back to back, and then Brighton was probably a more scrappy performance because they didn't. It looked like City weren't really getting the ball into working it in the final third as well as they would want to. It's hard to tell. It was hard to tell whether it was because Brighton were playing that well or defending it well enough, or if City just weren't on it that night. But then again, Foden pops up with his little bit of trickery and puts it in the bottom corner, and the game's over. So yeah.
Yeah, I've just been totaling up. Since they lost to Spurs in the middle of February, they've played 15 games since then, which is utterly ridiculous because that's 15 games in 2 months. They have conceded 3 goals in 15 games, and it's like that is how you win titles. And it's like I said it a couple months ago. Listen, it's interesting to see Guardiola morph into Mourinho, the Chelsea and Porto Mourinhos. But that's what they're doing.
It'll be interesting to see if he turns around at any point, Pep, and says, "I wouldn't want to play like a boring style of football where you only score 1 goal," and it's like, well, Pep.
And the thing is, I don't think it's boring because it's just it's controlling. It's not necessarily.
No, I'm not
boring.
saying that, but there are certain instances when I've watched it. Obviously the Chelsea United games were totally different, and it was to quote the great Renaissance man, it was liquid football. But the Brighton game was just. I mean,
It suffocates
them. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, but that's what good teams do.
Yeah, but they're suffocating them like that. But then there's the Liverpool way of suffocation, which is 4 or 5 goals, and I'm kind of like.
I mean, we have again Liverpool's attack has not done
not this season.
All, but not this season. But City weren't like this last season. City are doing this as a necessity for what was this year, where the easiest way to conserve energy is just to circulate the ball around. But it's a very smart way of doing it. It's like if you control the ball and minimize the opponent's shots, you're not ever chasing a game. You're not exerting a lot of energy, and it also helps being City. You can make changes and not actually lose anything at the top end of the pitch as well.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, in terms of, we both picked City at the start of the season, didn't we? And I still feel, as the season seems to be going on, I'm feeling more and more confident that that's going to be the case, because I just think consistency-wise, towards this end of the season, they're going to be the ones that have it. Barring any sort of injuries to midfield or defence, which obviously in the season, the way it is, anything could happen. But I think if the team is fit and they stay the way they are, then I think they'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, I did flip to Liverpool a couple of weeks ago before they had that run of drawing against West Brom and Newcastle and losing to Southampton.
So you cursed them then,
that.
essentially. That's what you're saying. Yes.
I
Well,
didn't
it
say
sounds
that.
like it.
I don't believe in
Okay.
curses anyway.
Well, we'll see what happens on
So
Sunday then. Okay. So
if it's an entertaining game, that's already me a winner because I think it's going to be quite cagey. So
okay. So moving on from City then, because we'll make that one short as requested at the start of that segment. One last thing to go through. Congratulations to Sheffield United for winning their first game of the season.
woo!
A team that I've watched many times and thought, I don't understand how they've lost as badly as they have in this game. But I've been struggling for goals worse than I am struggling to enjoy a walk outside in the winter wonderland. But yeah, Sheffield United won their first game. Obviously, congrats to them. Hopefully, this can be the kickstart of them maybe making a bit better fight of it and staying in the league.
They're only 3 points behind West
Yeah.
Brom. Every little helps.
Well, I mean, you say that the 3 points behind West Brom, 9 points behind Brighton. So
Yeah, I mean, they're not catching Brighton.
Yeah.
Let's be fair, but Brighton are fine.
Brighton are fine. That's gonna be this. If we ever get to the point where we can make T-shirts for this podcast, that's gonna be the first one we print.
If Brighton get relegated this season instead of someone like Newcastle or Palace, it will really sadden
Well, no,
me.
but Palace are going to do the thing they do every year. They're going to be stable and they'll be absolutely fine. If there's anyone who's going to be under threat, it's Newcastle. Which leads me into the last segment, and a beautiful segue, if I may say so myself, of how long does Steve Bruce have in this job?
I mean, do you want me to say this in years or decades? I mean, unless Newcastle get relegated, he is safe.
Until new ownership comes in. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't go that far. It probably depends on the new owners at that point.
Well, yeah. Well, the new owner, if the new owners can get someone decent enough in, they're not going to stick with Steve Bruce. Let's be honest.
That is true, but if you actually look at Newcastle's squad, it's not great.
No, it's not.
Like, the position Newcastle are in is pretty much on par with their talent. It's just the way they go about it is so demoralising.
Yeah. And it's strange because last season he had probably a worse squad, really. And I think he did a brilliant job keeping that team up last year, in my opinion, because of how bad they were at times, but yet still somehow had these mini little runs of 2 or 3 games and kept them up quite comfortably.
It ended up quite comfortably because they got a very good start. I'm just having a look. Last season, sorry for bringing expected goals back into this, but last season, Newcastle's were the second worst team in the league.
Yeah.
But by expected goals, they had a negative XG difference of 25.2.
Yes, but that's what happens when you spend 40 million of your hard-earned cash on Joel Linton.
Joel Linton is a fine player. He's not a number 9 and never has been and never will be. And Steve Bruce decided for 2/3 of the year to play him as a number 9. That's a manager fault, not a recruitment fault.
Okay, then.
I didn't even rehearse that. That just came out.
Good to see your burning passion for Joel Linton still lives on, Millie.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is that this season they are on a per game basis better than they were last season, despite looking worse.
Is that because they have Callum Wilson, who is a proper Premier League striker?
I mean, that does help. And Callum Wilson has scored at the start of the year. Callum Wilson also scored quite a few penalties, which also helps.
Whoa, hang on! Let's not bring penalties into this. This will start to get heated soon if we start talking about penalties. You are talking about.
I'm not entirely sure it will, because I think United and Liverpool are like within one penalty award of each other in the league this year.
Well,
So.
Klopp's. Well, did you
It,
hear
it
Klopp's,
doesn't.
did you
It
hear
doesn't. It
Klopp's
doesn't.
point about how they've not been United have been awarded more penalties in 2 years than Liverpool have had in the past 5.5 years since he's been there?
I mean, that is playing the media. That's what I would say to that. I don't agree with the point.
Okay. Moving swiftly on.
Whether it's true or not, and I think especially in a situation you got where there is no fans, I'm not entirely, and with VAR, I'm not entirely certain of the reason to bring that up anymore. Like, what external factors is there to stop people getting, like, what external pressures are there on referees now to, like, not award penalties? There are a lot more penalties this year, but, like, they are quite widely spread across the league. It's not just that you can make an argument, like, throughout the whole pitch, bigger teams get the rub of the green of decisions, and I would probably agree with that. But I think Liverpool and United probably get the equal share.
Fair enough. Don't tell my Newcastle fans mates at work that, because they might blow the top. Anyway, moving on swiftly from that. What were you going to say about Newcastle? You were in the middle of a point.
I was in the middle of a point. I was talking about Callum Wilson scoring penalties. Like, the problem with Newcastle is that they are not a fun team to watch. And if you're not going to be a fun team to watch, you need to be very functional at what you do. And so, like, you look at what Hodgson does with Palace. It's essentially the blueprint. But it's... I don't know whether it's the fact that the players Newcastle buy seem to be better than how they get to play, if that makes sense. I mean, I am the person who, when I heard Bruce got the job last season, I put a bet on Newcastle to finish bottom. That's how much faith I had in him. So,
I mean, to be fair, Millie, if I could have recorded some of the comments that were coming out of the Newcastle fans around me, who I've obviously speak to on a daily basis, I think they probably would have agreed with you. The fact that they managed to stay up, I think, got him a few more bits of applause than it did at the start of the season when fans were booing him. But then I think this season, because it's got worse instead of better, it's almost like, well, we were right. It's almost given them some sort of vindication. But Ashley runs this club at a profit, and his whole point is, if Newcastle are in the Premier League, that is enough. And so, to answer your original question, when will Bruce be in trouble? When their Premier League status is in peril, and they are 7 points ahead of Fulham. I haven't played one game more. Right.
You've got Burnley 3 points behind with a game in hand. They've played one game more than Brighton and 5 points clear. As much as I love Brighton compared to Newcastle this season.
Right. Can I ask you a question though? These are the next list of games I've got for Newcastle up until the end of February. They've got Arsenal away, Aston Villa away, Leeds at home, Everton away, Palace at home, Southampton at home, Chelsea away, Man United away, and Wolves at home. How many points realistically are they picking up out of those games?
Can I just say, you said that was to the end of February, so that's 6 weeks, and there was 9 games in that list. That is utterly ridiculous. How many points should they realistically get, or how many points do I think they're going to get? So those are two different answers.
Answer both then, because I'm interested in both.
If I had to stick a number on it, I would say they should get about 5. But because the season is weird, they will probably end up with about 10.
I just can't. I can't see them getting it.
Like, don't ask me to tell me where the points are coming from, but they will, like, one of those games away to like Villa or Everton or United or Chelsea, they will win one of those through some sort of weirdness,
magic trick.
Yeah, and that's what keeps you up, is nicking games like that when you aren't a good side. But don't ask me to tell you which one it is.
Like, I'm not trying to be unkind to Newcastle or like the club or the players or anything like that, but it generally does worry me when I'm starting to see comparisons with the teams that got relegated, because I haven't thought of Newcastle as a team that couldn't get points against anybody for a long time. But like, looking at that run of games, like, I can't see them. If someone said, would you be likely to bet on the fact that Newcastle won't win a single of those games, I could quite easily say yes, I could see that happening.
I would expect them to beat Palace at home.
I wouldn't.
I would. I would, depending on injuries on the day. I might expect them to get something at home at Southampton, and against Wolves, depending on injuries. So like there are games there which they can win. I wouldn't expect them to get any points away from home. I just know they will, because that's what happens. Like, you don't expect them to do it, but they do. I mean, like, I'm having a look at who Newcastle have beaten this season. They got win against West Ham on the opening weekend. They've beaten Burnley. They beat Everton, which was a weird game. I remember watching that. They've beaten Palace and they've beaten West Brom. So they're beating the teams around them, which is fair enough. Like, that's what you have to do. So
yeah. I mean, in terms of, I'm getting more and more concerned as the weeks go by with Newcastle. It wouldn't surprise me if they stayed up, but they'd do it by the skin of their teeth and stay 17th.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful this year that Sheffield United are gone.
Well, you say that, we're only halfway through the season, and they're only a few points behind West Brom, and then after that, it's, a couple of positive points.
If we are still presuming you're going to need around 35 points to stay up, which is about the number we banded at the start of the season, there hasn't seen anything to suggest otherwise. That means Sheffield United need to get 30 points in 20 games.
Easily doable.
It's easily doable if you're a half-decent side. Sheffield United isn't a half-decent side to begin with.
If they see this fixture against Newcastle as a spark, and they get a couple of positive results, and they, it gets the ball rolling. They could if they start getting back into the mentality of how they were when they started last season, I wouldn't rule it out.
I mean, last season they were a perfectly fine mid-table side. They need to be better than that for the rest of the year, and they haven't been that so far this year. Okay. So
I'm just saying, don't count your chickens on Sheffield United being gone yet.
I'm not counting my chickens. I'm just trusting maths at this point.
I was never a big believer in that. 2 + 2, it's that anyway.
But I think it helps Newcastle that Sheffield United are gone. West Brom look terrible. So there's only one space left. So it's not like it was last season where it was quite tight and there was two or three from 7. This is essentially 1 from 5, maybe 6 if you want to say Wolves are really struggling, which I'm not prepared to say yet. So I would rather be in Newcastle position than Fulham's position at the moment, but not by much. Point on the board is always helpful. And I think that's what will keep them up this year, which is what kept them up last year.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we'll leave that one there then, and we'll leave it there as a whole for the podcast as well. If you did enjoy it, please give us a like and subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comments. And I'm trying to think of if there's anything else to add on. Oh yeah, there's the NFL playoffs this weekend. You looking forward to them, Millie?
I am very, very happy that the Rams at Green Bay is the first game on Saturday because it gives me plenty of time to drink after after that and still be sober enough for Monday morning.
Fair enough. And on that.
that's like we're playing with house money at this point. We're not expected to win. I don't think any reasonable person is saying we're going to win. So yeah, like very quickly, there's one of two ways the Rams will win on Saturday. It's either get a turnover fest from Rodgers, which is unlikely, or if the Rams can run the ball for 250 yards and keep Rodgers on the sideline as much as possible, which is less likely, but that's about it.
Well, fingers crossed for you then. Anyway, right. Well, we'll leave it at that. And
any quick thoughts about Ravens at Bills?
Like last week.
Glad it isn't the Chiefs.
Like last week. Hope for the best and see what happens.
Fair enough.
And that's it. Right, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.